Plot summary of So the Path Does Not Die by Pede Hollist. Pede Hollist's So the Path Does Not Die traces the experiences of Finabar Mara from childhood into adulthood, as she seeks identity and belonging in the different communities she encounters. The novel begins in Talabar, a Sierra Leonean village, where her grandmother Baramusu and her mother Nabu disagree about whether Fina should undergo the customary female circumcision. Her parents, Amadou and Nabu, resist because they had lost their first daughter during such a ritual. Fina, however, desires the rite so she can be accepted among her peers. While Nabu is away, Baramusu takes her to the forest for the initiation, but Amadou intervenes. His interruption is judged a taboo, angering the villagers and forcing him to move his wife and daughter to Freetown. This shift marks the beginning of a new chapter in Fina's life. In Freetown, Amadou's uncle Alhaji Umaru shelters them until Amadou finds work. Nabu begins trading to support the family and send Fina to school. When Fina receives free dental care from an American, she dreams of becoming a dentist. Amadou eventually rents a small room after selling some construction materials he guarded, but he soon dies of tetanus, cutting short the family's fragile stability. After his death, Amadou's employer, Pede, assumes responsibility for Fina's education, taking her into his household. Though kindly treated, Fina feels out of place and inadequate, especially in her strained relationship with Aid, one of the Hedel children. An incident in which she burns Aid's cloth intensifies the hostility. Later, she becomes a boarding student at Crowther College. At first, she enjoys the freedom from the Hedel's household tensions, but soon suffers discrimination from classmates because of her Fula heritage. Struggling with organic chemistry, she seeks help from Kizzy, a lab assistant, who pretends to tutor her but only wants to exploit her. Despite a vision of her late father and grandmother offering opposing advice, she visits Kizzy and is raped. Broken, she drops out of school, finds employment, and with her employer's help, relocates to America. In the United States, Fina works hard, sending money home to her mother and sister Isa. She hopes to set Isa up in business and establish a center for women harmed by circumcision. After Nabu's death, she continues to provide for Isa, even when Isa takes advantage of her generosity. Cami, her partner, criticizes Isa's dependence, but Fina clings to her only surviving family tie. The memory of her grandmother's warning never to cut the rope linking her to her people continues to disturb her. On her wedding day to Cami, she dreams of the night her initiation was halted, taking it as a curse. When her ex-husband Jemal appears, claiming her as his wife, the ceremony collapses, deepening her sense of being cursed. Pregnant with Cami's child, she resolves to return to Sierra Leone. Seeking to reconnect past, present, and future, Fina searches for Baramusu, but finds Talabar in ruins. Instead, she meets Mama Yegbe, a blind woman, and Mawaf, her helper, who both endured wartime atrocities. Back in Freetown, she makes them her family, adopting Mawaf as her daughter and treating her like Demusu Celeste, her own child. The novel ends with optimism. Fina embraces her grandmother's lesson that survival depends on mutual support within the community. With Cami likely to join her in Sierra Leone, she sustains her cultural link instead of cutting the rope. Setting of the story: the events of So the Path Does Not Die unfold across Sierra Leone and the United States. The story begins in the rural village of Talabar, where Finabar is born and where the conflict over her initiation takes place. From there, the narrative shifts to Freetown, the capital city, which marks the beginning of her formal education and her exposure to a wider world. Other Sierra Leonean locations, such as Koidu, also feature. Here, Fina secures her first job before eventually leaving the country. With the help of her employer Meredith, she migrates to America, where she lives and works for many years, supporting her family back home while grappling with questions of belonging. The US becomes both a place of opportunity and of struggle, as she faces broken relationships and cultural disconnection. The narrative later takes her briefly to Nigeria for a wedding, further expanding the geographical scope of the story. Ultimately, however, her journey circles back to Sierra Leone. She returns first to Talabar, only to find her childhood village in ruins, and later settles in Freetown, where she forms a new family with Mama Yegbe and Moaf. In essence, the shifting settings, Talabar, Freetown, Koidu, America, and Nigeria, mirror Finaba's personal journey, charting her movement between tradition and modernity, exile and home, alienation and community.